Mayor Mahoney. Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Here.
Trustee Doherty.
Here.
Trustee Early.
Here.
Trustee Morris. Trustee Ott.
Here.
Trustee Strock.
Present.
Thank you. Did I miss? I got everybody right? Okay, sorry.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion? Move to approve the agenda as presented. Do we have a second? Second. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Hearing no opposed, the agenda is approved. Next item is audience business. We do not have any tonight, actually. So we will move to the consent agenda. For the benefit of the audience, the items on the consent agenda are the payment approval report in the amount of $808,220.59 and the July 17th minutes. Do I have a motion? So moved. Do I have a second? Second. Hearing a motion in a second, roll call please.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Ott. Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is to adjourn at the Lockwood Board of Trustees and convene the license authority, so I will do that. And we will consider the liquor rental application for Sandbox Bar and Grill.
Okay. So the Sandbox Bar and Grill, they turned in their renewal application, and then the police department went and did an inspection. I checked the health department records, everything was fine. They've paid their fees, so staff recommendation would be to approve the renewal for them.
Okay, questions or comments? Trustee Ott?
None, chief seems to approve it, and they don't have any violations of the plan, so I'm in favor of it.
Trustee Doherty?
Nothing, thanks.
Trustee Strock?
They were warned about the federal tax stamp. Did they do something about that?
So they have not, but they do know it's required. And then, unfortunately, me being new here, I put that on the inspection list, and actually, since it's a federal stamp that's required, because we're the local authority, then the federal can kind of pursue that instead of the local authority. So that's where we're at with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Trustee Early?
That was the same question I had.
Okay, and I don't have anything, so I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the liquor license renewal for the Sandbox Bar and Grill LLC.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries, so we will now adjourn as the Liquor Licensing Authority and reconvene as the Board of Trustees. Next item is an executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute Section 24-6-402, parens 4, parens B, with Town Council for legal advice on the terms of the proposed amendment to the Eppinger-Dean Annexation Agreement. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Strock.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Thank you.
With that, we will go into executive session. We'll adjourn out to our conference room here, and we'll be back momentarily.
soaking wet.
No, I saw the back of your legs.
I feel like I should have a diaper on. Okay, well, that makes some sense. Did you know Priscilla?
Please. Oh. Dave. Okay. The time is now 6:58 PM and the executive session has been concluded. For the record, if any person who participated in the session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the session occurred during the executive session, or that any improper action occurred during the session in violation of the open meeting law, I ask you to state your concerns for the record now. Seeing none, the next agenda item is the consideration of the First Amendment to the Eppinger-Dean Annexation Agreement. Ms. Duran.
In 2005, the town entered into an annexation agreement for the property John located on the other side of Mount Federal 2 from the intersection of I-76. And that annexation agreement put a couple of obligations on the annexor related to participation in infrastructure improvements in town, particularly widening of Weld County Road 2, signalization, and improvements to the intersection off-ramp that only is at I-76. Because the town is moving forward with its Weld County Road 2 project and Roundabout project now, we entered into discussions with the successor in interest to the rights and obligations under that annexation agreement, which is the current property of 5 Middle Holdings, over the last several months. And in the end, have negotiated a payment in lieu of those performance obligations that is described to the council in the executive session as set forth in that First Amendment to the annexation agreement. My turn. So those two payments that are new obligations under the First Amendment are $1.35 million with the first building permit of the first use type, and then when the second use type first building permit is pulled, an additional $150,000, and that is in lieu of the obligations related to Weld County Road 2, the intersection at the frontage road in Weld County Road 2, where we're putting in a roundabout, but where what was contemplated originally was in a signal, and then signalization at the ramps on I-76. And so that's the basic provisions within that annexation agreement amendment. And since tonight we're having really a night of Lochbuie Center and Lochbuie Station, we wanted to bring that forward to you this evening.
Any questions or comments? Trustee Early?
None.
Trustee Strack?
None.
Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing. Thank you.
And all I will say is I thank Mr. Spillane for engaging in good faith negotiations on this. I think we reached a compromise that maybe wasn't great for everyone involved, but is great in the end for all involved, which is kind of where you want to be at the end of any good negotiation. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the First Amendment to the Eppinger-Dean Annexation Agreement.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Trustee Strack.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the motion carries. Next item is the public hearing to consider ordinance 636. Mr. Ron.
Thank you,
Or
Mayor.
Mr. Staney.
So I'll just introduce the subject matter. And we do also have our technical development review team members, several of those here tonight as well. So this property is located at the southwest corner of I-76 and County Road 2. The applicant is Flywheel Holdings. The current zoning is a mixed-use district. It's proposed, so there are two actions tonight for the board. One is to consider a rezoning of a portion of the property, about 41 acres, for residential use to the R2 residential district and with a PUD overlay. And the second action is for a resolution for approval of their preliminary plat for that property.
Okay.
So this does propose, in the residential area, it's about 41 acres. There are approximately 200 single-family dwelling units. There's a combination of open space scattered throughout that proposal. The Lochbuie Center is commercial, and that's approximately 35 acres. And you do have an applicant's notebook with you tonight as well. And the applicant's here to present their project in more detail.
So with that, I will open the public hearing, and we can hear from the applicant first.
Good evening, Mayor Lieutenant Lofgren, members of the Board of Trustees. I'm John Spillane. I'm representing the applicant WCD Corporation. That's our development entity for this particular project. And also Flywheel Holdings, which is our holding entity for this project. But as most of you know, we all operate under the umbrella of the Bromley Companies, which I'm a principal in. And you know, we've been part of the Lochbuie community for almost 20 years now. As you know, we developed Bromley Park to the south and commenced the development of the Silver Peaks project back in 2000. And as I mentioned to the Planning Commission, this is kind of a milestone week for me, because 18 years ago we stood in a vacant field and talked about putting a school on that field, and this week that school is opening. And so, you know, for all of us who work to build new communities, we're real proud of that. We're proud to see that some of the things that we started so many years ago are coming to fruition. And along those same lines, in what was it, 2008, we sold a 60-acre piece in the Altamira subdivision for the proposed high school, middle school site. And so that someday soon will be a tremendous anchor for this town to bring the community together. And in 2005, now 13 years ago, is when we annexed this property. We used to call it the Eppinger, primarily the Eppinger property. The Dean piece was a 5-acre piece that they cut off inside where the little house is. But the Eppingers were pioneers for the development of the Lochbuie community. And we worked with the Eppingers closely to annex this property to the town of Lochbuie. And here we are 13 years later, and the pendulum has swung, and now we're excited about moving forward and having something, seeing some development out there. And so all things come to those who wait, and we feel like it's now time to start that process rolling, and we're excited about it. As you heard with respect to the CMU zoning, that was a zone district we established at the time to accommodate both commercial uses and multifamily, single-family attached. And we always kind of anticipated that there would be a residential component that would support the commercial uses for this property. And as you know, last August we had our retail broker come in and talk to the town board and talk about kind of what we needed as far as commercial was concerned. And so, you know, the market has really been very vibrant now for single-family detached. And it gave us the opportunity, instead of necessarily looking at a multifamily product to support the commercial, that there would be the opportunity to do single-family. And Meritage Homes stepped forward and said they were looking for a project that would accommodate single-family homes next to retail like this. And so that's what we're proposing for you today. It was the one thing that wasn't permitted in the CMU zone, was single-family residential, and so that's why we're asking for the rezoning to the single-family residential R2 with the PUD overlay. And as we set forth some of the narrative descriptions that you got, and by the way, there were a lot of items in the technical documents and in the other materials that were presented, and we'd like to make sure that those are included as exhibits for the public portion of this. But as indicated with in those materials, you know, we are proposing the 202 single-family units and then the commercial portion for the area that would be east of Wagon Trail Avenue. So what I'd like to do is unless you have any questions for me right now, I'd like to introduce Ken Puncharelli. He's a principal with LAI Design, and Ken's firm put together the design for both the residential portion and then for the first phase of the commercial. And so Ken will run through the program, the design a little bit, and then I'll come back and answer any questions that you might have with respect to the project. So, Ken.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and trustees. My name is Ken Puncharelli with LAI Design Group. Our offices are located at 88 Inverness Circle East, Englewood, Colorado. Pleasure to be here this evening, and thank you for making time for us. You know, when you begin a project like this and you start out with your vision as a designer, and then you also have the client's vision about what this land might be, then you also have the municipality partner that you're working with, their vision, and then you have other consultants on the team, the civil engineer, the traffic engineer, and so on and so forth, and everybody has a role to play and a part to play in putting a project of this size together. And so this is no different than other projects that have multiple participants. And so, you know, my compliments to the town and their staff for working with us diligently, because we have been working on this project for about a year, even though we formally submitted in December time. But there's been a lot of good time and time well spent ironing out details to get to where we are today. So thank you. So with that, let's see. I just use this. There we go. Oh, too fast. Okay, I'll get this right. Okay. Me and technology, believe it or not. Okay. So I think everybody is well acquainted with where the property is. We're in the, you know, for the record, we're in the located in the southwest quadrant of Weld County Road 2 and I-76. The property is currently in an agricultural state, and there's just under 81 acres of total property. Some of the photographs of the site. Come on, this is touchy tonight. It didn't work this way during Planning Commission. So some of the photographs of the site looking south and west and east, and you can see that the property is in an agricultural state, as it has been for some time, and I know you all drive past here frequently. So it's the wrong slide. Come on. There we go. Sorry. So you'll notice on the screen the property on the right-hand side of the screen, my right, probably your left, is the commercial parcel. That's about 35 acres, and the property on the left-hand side of the screen that's in yellow is just under 42 acres for residential. What we're illustrating there is about 202 single-family lots, and the proposed density is 4.8 homes to the acre, and we have just under 5.5 acres of park and open space area. So the current zoning is, as was mentioned earlier, mixed use, and we're looking at converting that to PUD on this particular residential parcel. So one of the things that we always look for in creating neighborhood designs is how do we integrate parks and open space elements. So if you'll notice where my cursor is going, we've created a series of green spaces where we've essentially divided the residential property in two. And the reason for that is if you live in this cul-de-sac here or this one to the north, those being the furthest from a neighborhood pocket park, that's no more than a 2-minute walk for the furthest resident to get to where there's park playground equipment for your young children to play on. Connecting that to another more passive park at the southwest portion of the neighborhood is another park. So all total, there's a little over 13% open space on the site. Now, in addition to that, one of the other big things that we're very concerned about when we lay out a neighborhood design is connectivity. So we have connectivity to Wagon Trail here, where there's bike lane, a combined bike lane, pedestrian, 10-foot sidewalk there. There's an 8-foot pedestrian spine that goes through the park and trail area internal to the property. And then there's access, pedestrian or bicycle, here at the cul-de-sac, here at mid-block, here at the end of this cul-de-sac, and then of course at each primary entrance to the neighborhood. So all total, there are 6 points of pedestrian or bicycle access, which of course ultimately can lead over to the commercial mixed-use property that's on the east side of Wagon Trail. So that was done intentionally. Good plans happen by design. They don't happen by accident, as I know you're quite well aware. Now, one of the fabulous things about the plan ultimately is people are going to live here. Well, how does that really happen? When you look at the 6 o'clock news and you can't miss a story over the past several years where home prices in the Denver metro area just hit a record high of just over $500,000 a few months ago. So the homes being offered here, they'll be brand new homes. People will be able to pick their finishes and colors and all of those kinds of things, all those benefits of being a new home buyer. The average price point in this neighborhood will be $380,000. Homes go from $350,000 to about $420,000, and the midpoint is $380,000. And so that's quite a good value given where the market is today. We've basically hit all of the other points about that, and so to kind of focus on what does that equate to with the housing, we've got 3 different models shown on this screen. We've got one that'll be just under 1,700 square foot, a ranch. Next house up will be just under 2,300 square feet, and then the next one up from that will be just under 2,800 square feet. All will be at least 3 bedroom, and then some 4 and 2.5 bath. So really what we're finding in our design practice is we've all heard of the baby boomers, right? Everybody's heard of the baby boomers. Well, now those baby boomers have all been converted to baby chasers. Why? Because the son and daughter-in-law or the daughter and son-in-law have moved to Denver because of our robust employment situation here. And so that ranch house that's on the left-hand side of the screen is perfect for the empty nesters that want to be near the grandkids. And so you can see with the portfolio of homes being offered, there's something for everybody, and there's kind of a combination of farmhouse, modern farmhouse style of architecture being offered, but lots of options in floor plans, and so it's a wonderful opportunity for that move-up buyer or somebody that's saved enough to be a first home buyer to live in a wonderful new neighborhood and a new home. So that essentially concludes my portion of the presentation, and I have with me a fantastic team, Inertia engineers. Also, we have Curtis our traffic engineer, and of course, John, who spoke earlier. So if there's a question that I'm unable to answer, I can certainly defer to one of them. So, thank you.
Thanks. Questions or comments for Larry? Go ahead.
I'm not sure that I should direct my comments to you right now, other than, you know, $380,000 for a medium house is really getting up there where some of the younger people are really going to have a hard time affording that. And but I think you'll see in the future is you'll see more and more children or young people buying what we used to call townhomes or condos because they're not going to be able to make that $380,000 mortgage payment. I think that's probably just around the corner with mass transportation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, trustee.
Anyone else?
Can you go back to the picture, the overall picture of the development?
Sure.
The kind of orange colored area, what is that supposed to go jump right there?
Oh, come on, this is killing me. This is killing me tonight, guys.
One more,
Yeah.
there
There
you
you
go.
go.
The kind of orange color, I can't read what that says.
That says future commercial.
Okay.
Yep.
I want to know. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll all be, that entire area will obviously be master planned and intended to have pad sites as well as some other commercial
I
uses.
just couldn't read it, that's why I wanted to find out what it was.
No problem. I have that same challenge.
Anything else?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very
Oh,
much.
go ahead.
On the residential streets, is there parking on both sides?
I believe there is, yes.
And the other thing is under section 4 in our binder, lot requirements, it says no livestock or poultry. We have passed an ordinance last year that people can have poultry, so I don't know if you want to, look into that or not, but it's ordinance 623, 7-6-190. They are allowed to have like 6 chickens now.
Okay, but no roosters.
Huh?
No
No
roosters.
roosters.
Okay, we will certainly
So I just wanted to
bring that up to Meritage Homes.
Anything? Go ahead.
Thank you.
Is this kind of the stage where you guys start to plan if this is going to have an HOA, that you start dictating that, or kind of where does that get set? Just not being really all familiar with this early of the process, when do you guys really decide on having an HOA and and maybe that's not really all, I guess, is this when that's decided?
Yes.
And then, since this is when it's decided, is it basically kind of the developers and you guys that all kind of decide what those the provisions of that HOA are?
Yes, the covenants and controls, right. So, a perfect example of the reason that you want covenants, controls, and restrictions is, I think probably everybody in this room is a Bronco fan, and if you're not, you probably would be ridiculed to become one. But it prevents, an enthusiast like myself from painting my house Bronco orange if they win the Super Bowl next year or something like that. So that's an example I think everybody can grapple with, and one of many reasons why, if people don't maintain their yard and let weeds grow, park junk cars in front of their driveway, the parts car that never gets worked on, but always that's a goal to get worked on. Those are kind of the reasons why those types of rules are put in place.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else for anyone? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything for Mr. Spillane?
I do.
Yeah, questions? Trustee Strack, go ahead.
Easy questions. The first one is I notice it says that you have all the Silver Peaks water certificates. So it seems to me that they're somewhat just like bearer bonds because you're going to use them. They're used over at Silver. They're used all over town. So when this happens, doesn't this just kind of inflate the price of those certificates?
No, and the reason why, Trustee Schrock, is, but thank you for the question, because it's a good one. We don't own all the certificates for Silver Peaks. We only own, I believe, we own 50 to 70 certificates. But under our annexation agreement, we can use some certificates that we have for this development. And our intention was really to kind of reserve those for the commercial uses, because they were, just as you say, they were easy to use because the water's already been dedicated to the town. Our plan ultimately for the residential portion is to bring new water to the town, and we're in discussions with the town engineer and the town attorney about that. Our plan would be to use Fulton ditch shares for that. And I understand it becomes kind of a complex math problem in terms of how you calculate the yields for that. But the bottom line is that that'll be new water that'll be brought to the town. And then we'll use the Silver Peak certificates as kind of a backup in the interim, if we need to, for the Fulton shares, just so we can get going. And then with the commercial, which would be an easier supplement at that point, just because when you do the commercial, it's not as intense a use for most of the commercial areas. So in terms of inflating the price is set by the district, and the district sets the price established by its bond documents. So presumably, people could sell their shares for a different price if they could, but it would be pretty much limited then by the price that the district is selling them for, which presumably would be, less than somebody trying to pump up the price. So anyway, I don't think there's much of a concern about the price being inflated. It's pretty much set by the bond documents, and it escalates, I think, at 5% annually is for the price of those certificates.
I just wondered if different areas were fighting over them. But it doesn't sound
That's
like
not
it.
the plan.
No,
Yeah, the plan would be to do something similar, actually, to what we did with Silver Peaks, which would be to dedicate water resources, but in this case, it would be Fulton shares. So
Okay.
that's the plan.
All right, thank you. My other question is about the existing oil well. And it states here that it's going to be plugged or abandoned. Quite frankly, just to be honest, I will not personally approve another oil facility in a residential area. And so it says that an application has been made to do horizontal drilling at another location. And so I was just wondering if you could kind of show me on the map where those 45 wells are going to be?
Yeah, and actually, it's a good opportunity to kind of give a little background on that whole question. The gas well, it's an old well that was drilled back in the 70s, and it's barely producing. And it's here in this, point the cursor in this area here.
Yep.
And we put the 150-foot setback, to comply with the town's requirements on that. Gas wells, I mean, they're pretty benign. These old gas wells are concerned they don't produce much. And frankly, the reason why the oil companies keep these wells is because they continue to hold their lease. The lease is only in effect for a certain number of years, usually 2 or 3 years, but then for so long as oil and gas is produced in paying quantities. And so they have to have a certain minimum level of production, but it doesn't need to be a lot in order to keep it producing. And so the idea then would be, well, they would like to make more money by wells that would produce a lot more than that existing well. And the horizontal drilling technology has just revolutionized the whole development of oil and gas in this whole area of the Wattenberg field. In the old days, we used to fight with the oil companies because the wells had to be in certain, almost 20 locations within a section, which just chewed up a tremendous amount of ground. Well, now with the new horizontal drilling technology, they can take 5 acres and they can drill up to 2 miles in lanes, in laterals that look kind of like lanes on a swimming pool. And so that really does allow oil companies to get 10 times the production that they were getting before with a fraction of the land they were using before in order to produce the minerals. So now you fast forward to the fact that you have this well sitting here, and Great Western, which purchased the well from Kerr McGee a couple years ago, they would like there to continue to be production on this property, from this well, until there is other drilling that would maintain their lease. So in answer to your question, it's a long way of getting there. I don't know how to get forward and back on this. Boy, if Ken thought he was bad, I'm even worse. Next? Okay, how's that? There's this. Can I go to that? Okay, so there's one set of wells that is being proposed in this area right here. And the way that that works is that they would actually send laterals out that would go into section 1. This is our ground, section 1, and drill it. There's also, that's one set of wells that's being proposed. There's another set of wells, I believe right here or here, section 31, in which they will extend laterals into section 1 as well. And so those wells, neither of which is located in Loch Buoy, would be the pads on which wells would be drilled, that the actual bore would be under the property. By the way, it's a mile down. I mean, it's a long way down for those laterals. And so the effect on the surface is non-existent.
Yeah.
So
So
that's what
basically, my question was, if you're gonna abandon or plug the one well, and you're gonna turn it into a park, for the most part, and I was just curious as to where the big production facility was gonna be, and whether it was within your boundaries, and obviously it's
Right.
not.
So it's more information than you probably wanted, but the short
No, that's
answer
fine.
is, short answer is it's there and there, is where those production facilities will be, presumably. There are two different operating companies that are doing those. So-
Thank you.
And in the meantime, our feeling is that, we can, we anticipate that'll happen in a year or so, but the reason they abandon those as much as anything is it's just in the way of the more productive wells.
Yeah, I just didn't really want to see another 10 or 15 acre site right in the middle of a residential area. So
Right.
That was all. Thank you.
You bet. And if I could make one comment too, and that is, I forgot to, we had talked about Meritage, but I did want to emphasize too, that we have one retail user who is, we're planning to have a convenience store gas station on this location right here. So as part of this first phase, you'll be seeing, hopefully within the next year, well before the next year, I would hope, construction starting on both the residential portion and on the first retail pad. And I believe that that's a great thing, because once things start moving, then you start building momentum and other things start happening as well.
Any questions or comments, Trustee Early? Trustee Hatt? Trustee Doherty? Okay, and I don't have anything for you. Is there any other members of the public or anyone else that wishes to speak on this proposal? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing aspect of this and move to trustee comments on this. Trustee Yap.
No, I'm glad to see it get it going. And I want to congratulate Mr. Spillane and Mayor Pro Tem Loughran and Trustee Doherty on their diligent negotiations to get this done on the town and your behalf of the Flywheel Holdings. So thank you very much. Good to see it happening.
Trustee Doherty.
I have nothing. I'm excited to hopefully see this start moving forward in the near future. I think it'll be a great improvement for the town.
Trustee Strzok.
I just hope it all turns out positive, so thank you.
Trustee Early.
Nothing.
And the only thing I'll note is our negotiations were actually on the first item, not on this one.
Okay, well,
this was all
you guys
staff,
did
so
a
this
good
is all
job.
on Sam and Steve.
Sam and they did a great job too,
Yep.
so Thank you.
And with that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve ordinance number 2018-636, an ordinance of the town of Lockbowie, Colorado, approving the rezoning of property known as Lockbowie Station from mixed-use commercial to R2 single-family residential with a planned unit development overlay district and amending the official zoning map.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Strong.
Yes.
Thank you.
With that, the motion carries. Next item is the public hearing for 2018-12. Mr. Stamey.
It's likely that you did consider their proposed plat, which is correct, all restrictions for 102 residential lots plus the commercial lots and one super block, the commercial area. There's 50 acres.
I'll open the public hearing on this one, and I don't think you have anything else to add, okay? Anyone else from the public on this one? So we'll close the public hearing on 2018-12, and I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2018-12, a resolution of the Board of Trustees for the town of Lockbowie approving the preliminary plat of Lockbowie Center.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
I just have one clarification. So I have the number wrong on the resolution, so it's actually resolution 15, so I apologize.
So I amend my resolution to resolution 2018-15.
Thank you, sorry about that.
Do I have an amended second?
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Trustee Strong.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes,
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Thank you.
and the motion carries. Action item D, Weld County Road 2 update. Mr. Cantrell.
This is on this time? Yeah, good. Good evening. So my update should be pretty quick for Weld County Road 2 this week. I think as people have been driving up and down the road, they've seen wooden stakes along the side of the road. So the contractor's surveyor has been outlaying locations of future curb, sidewalk, and other improvements out there. They are anticipating moving dirt starting early in September. We're in the process now of working with the dry utility companies on getting all their stuff relocated now that items are staked out, so they know where to move stuff at this point. So.
Questions, comments, Trustee App?
No, let's go, go, go.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing, thanks.
Trustee Stratt?
Telephone. Do you know anything about when they plan to make that, put that 20-inch pipe underneath the Spear Canal and connect it to the
Fortunately,
12-inch pipes?
Mandy is on vacation in Paris, so I believe.
We are waiting for a proposal.
Yes.
The plans have gone in, they sent comments back, and then they're revising the plans right now. And plus there's water.
It's kind of almost dry.
I know, I noticed that today.
So, yeah, I would say probably by November they turn off their water usually. So.
Thank you.
Trustee Early?
Nothing, thanks.
And I don't have anything other than I'm excited to see the work start on our portion, so that's all I had. Thank you.
And then I think I'm on the next item.
Yep,
as
I was
well.
just going to say, your next one. So the Weld County Road 2 Widening Construction Administration Support Services. Mr. Cottrell?
Sure. So as we talked about, I believe a couple of board meetings ago, the town has brought on Inertia Consulting to do construction management, which is going to be the day-to-day operations of inspections and keeping on top of the contractor, make sure they're doing good work, running meetings and the such. So our request for additional services is more in a support role, where we'll be answering questions from the contractor, making plan changes as needed, and then attending meetings as needed as well. So definitely more of a support role. And we're proposing to do this on our typical discounted on-call rates hourly, and just want to do what we can to help make sure this gets a successful project. So, and then to add, it'll be similar to when we move forward with the roundabout project. CDOT will actually require 2 separate engineers, and the design engineer cannot be the construction manager. They feel like it keeps everybody honest.
Okay, questions or comments? Trustee Strapp?
I don't have any.
Trustee Early?
Nothing.
Trustee Doherty?
Can you say that last part again?
The CDOT portion? So when we go through construction with the roundabout, the town will have to competitively bid the construction management portion of it. It's going to be a requirement of CDOT. They do let you have a waiver, but it takes a lot of hoops to get through. And it's usually easier just to hire a separate firm to do construction management.
But this is for construction admin, though.
Yes, so
right?
we would do the same
Construction
situation
management
where-
would be what we did with the other firm, correct?
Inertia, correct.
Okay.
So it'll just be the same setup as the roundabout. It's going to be mandated by CDOT that it has to be that way as far as separate design firm from construction management firm. Just
But
trying prepping ahead.
So the 16 now, is that for the entire project then, or is that?
Just for the widening. And
Okay.
that would be an hourly top set, so just as much as we need to hire.
Okay, and that's all that I have.
Trustee Ott?
Nothing.
And I don't have anything, so I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement for civil engineering services not to exceed $16,000.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes,
Trustee Strzok.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you.
and the motion carries. Thank you very much. Next up is consideration of Resolution 2018-13. Mr. Stamey.
Yes, and we do have Charlie Stanzione here tonight as well from BBA. You do have a memorandum in your pack from BBA. And the resolution would authorize the town and through our water attorney and water engineer, file an application to declare our storage right absolute in the United Reservoir Storage Facility. And you do have a map that shows that. And the first absolute right would be for 432 acre feet, which has been documented for our use and storage. And there's still on a portion of that would be what's called a conditional storage right, which we would then take the next steps to make that as a absolute right as well. But this first step is to declare the absolute right for that storage of 432.49 acre feet.
Okay. Before we hop into questions, is this 2018-16 really? Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Take that note. Questions or comments? Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing.
Trustee Ott?
So this resolution makes it a permanent deal, we don't have to I started reading somewhere we gotta refile every so often.
You have to refile every 6 years.
So we still have to do this? Or is this,
Yes, I
this makes
believe,
it, so
yes.
we're gonna do this again in 6 years, I won't be here, but we gotta do it again
Right.
in 6 years. Okay,
Anything else?
no,
Trustee Stratt?
No, I'm all in favor of this.
Trustee Early?
Nothing.
And I don't have anything, so I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2018-16, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Lockwood, Colorado, authorizing the town to file an application for finding of reasonable diligence and to make absolute the town's conditional water storage right for United Reservoir and confirming the town's need and intent to continue to develop in the conditional portion of that water right.
second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes,
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Strzok.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next up is consideration of the agreement for AV services with King Systems. Mr. Stamey.
So over the last several months, staff, including our police chief and Debbie from the court, we've met with several AV companies and had discussions with AV companies. We sent out requests to several AV companies, received 2 written proposals for reworking our AV system and upgrading that system. I think based on our staff interaction and kind of analysis of the 2 proposals, we would recommend that we engage King Systems to do some work and retooling of our AV system to improve both its connectivity and our recording and connection to live streaming. So we do have a proposal from King Systems, and that's a gentleman that's been here the last few meetings to help us troubleshoot and get it operating better. And their proposal is $16,244.28.
Questions or comments, trustee App?
Well, they got us back online after a disastrous few sessions, so I would say they did a good job, and apparently you're happy with them. So that's what matters. People have to deal with them on a day-in, day-out basis, so.
Trustee Early?
Nothing.
Trustee Stratt?
Two questions. Do we have a total amount that this has cost us?
The AV system?
Yeah, for the entire thing. And then my second question is, do we have any recourse for the people that really didn't do a very good job in the first place?
Well, so I'm just kind of just recalling off the, without exact numbers, I believe the original cost for the equipment plus the installation, everything was around $48,000. And that included, running all the wire and making the connections and things like that. We had that company out here a number of times to try and fix and rework and get us, improved, and it just, we had limited success of getting them back to do anything.
I don't doubt that. Thank you very much. It seemed like, $70,000 is an awful lot, for something like this. So I guess that's just kind of being old-fashioned.
Well, I think it's upgrading equipment that maybe should have been better equipment or different equipment to start with.
Thank you very much.
Trustee Doherty?
I have nothing.
And the only thing I'll say is, while it is a large number, I think it's money well spent. Even if our numbers aren't great on live streaming now, I think they will only improve. And I think as you look around the metro area, all of the cities and towns around us offer this kind of thing, if not their own TV station. I think this is a great way to try and get the public more engaged, especially the public that is never attending our meetings. And I know I've heard from at least a handful of people that are watching at least portions of our meetings, which is someone that wouldn't have been here before, so I think it's money well spent. With that, I will entertain a motion.
I move to approve the contract with King Systems for AV upgrades and equipment in an amount not to exceed $16,250.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Strzok.
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Last action item is the IGA with the clerk and recorder for the ballot drop box. Yay! Ms. Buxton.
So we met with Carly Copes and Adam Gonzalez of the elections in Boyle County. They came out and met with Steve and I and David and the chief, and so we picked a location out front on this side over here, right by the chiefs. There's a camera there so they can have access to being able to see any issues for people messing with the box or whichever. So then this IGA is basically just, they're going to come out and install it at no charge. So it's not going to cost us $4,500. They're going to have Public Works deliver it. And then they're going to put us in all of the documentation that we're a drop-off box. So they can start that because they have to file that report with that plan with the state. So we'll be in those documents and on their website and stuff. So this IGA is just to say we're going to have it out here, be able to have the cameras and man it. I mean, you're not manning it, but just to take care of it and stuff, so.
Questions or comments, Trustee Strapp?
None, thank you.
Trustee Early?
Get it in.
Trustee App?
Nothing, been a long time coming. Good to see it happening.
Trustee Doherty?
I have a couple of questions. This is the one that we were anticipating to cost quite a bit for us, right?
Yeah, we thought it was going to be $4,500, but once we talked a little bit more to Adam and Carly, and they came out and looked, and they happened to have someone where they were going to put a box, it didn't pan out for them, and it wasn't working out, so they happened to have that box, and so since we asked to have it as quickly as we could get it, and since they had that one, they went ahead and said we could have it. We thought at one point we would have to do maybe some electrical for the camera system, but we think they can actually access ours, just that one camera, just for that time period that the drop box is open for use. So then that, we won't have to do that. Potentially, we may have to put a little lighting out there, but they're thinking a solar light, and just have it out there for the time period, the 22 days that people can drop off their ballot. So I think we don't have no funds out of our pocket at the moment, so.
That's great. Are we gonna have to make any changes to our newly poured slab to make this thing work? And then secondly, are they gonna need to install bollards for this to keep somebody from running into it? I know it's way up there, but I guess just from a kind of a security thing, are we gonna have to have bollards on each side of this thing to keep somebody from driving into it?
I don't believe so. They look at the site and they like the touch because it has ADA accessibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it'll just bolt into the concrete. And if we don't like that location up there, depending on how it works, we can pick it up and move it somewhere we want.
Okay. And then, so in some of the pictures, they're blank, and then some of the pictures have Weld County all over it. So especially since we're on the verge of having some new building that's not in this county, but are still residents of the town, how does that really work? So can town citizens that live across the street drop their ballot off in this? And are we gonna need to make sure that we're really specific that those people that do not live in the county but happen to live in the town of Lochbuie cannot use this?
No, so it'll be available for, any Weld County residents. So if they're driving by to go to work, they can drop off their ballot box. Yes, it's definitely a benefit for the residents, but also for someone who might work in Lochbuie, they can drop their ballot box off too, but it's not specifically just to Lochbuie, but it'll be for Weld County elections.
Yeah.
I think it's not for Adams County ballots.
In
other words, those people in the new 202 lots that we just approved tonight, they have to drop off at Adams.
Yeah.
Because they're perfectly reported Adams.
Yeah, and what we were told is that's ideal, but if they get an Adams County one, it makes its way there just slowly.
Right.
I don't know if they deliver amongst themselves, do you know that?
They do. They usually have an agreement amongst themselves that if they get one, because everybody wants to make sure the voters get a vote, and so as they collect, and I can confirm, I mean, that's how it was when I worked at the previous place when we dealt with Adams. If we got theirs in the other box, they just switched them out. So, but they make sure that person's vote gets to that ballot gets to the right place.
Okay, that was just my major concern. If there isn't that cooperation between Weld and Adams, I think we need to make it really clear on this box that some of our citizens are not able to use this box if that's the case. So I think we should just double check and just make really sure that, granted, we have a year, I don't know, we have some time before that's really that big of a deal, but although we do have one person, and this is gonna be by far the closest drop-off box for them now. So I think we should just be clear on that and make sure that if they cannot use this, or if there's a timeline, if it needs to get there 2 days before, because then they have to mail it to the right place, or whatever it is, I think we should be clear on this, so it's clear to our residents, because I understand it's for Weld, but
Right.
I think our citizens are gonna see that this is a Weld, or this is a Lochbuie thing, not Weld. I think it can be confusing, so I think we should just be clear. That's all that I have.
Sure.
I think it's great that we're getting it, though.
Yeah, I think our citizens are going to be ecstatic. I've heard from so many of the elderly people in the community that this is an absolute need, so I'm glad it's coming in. Do we have a date that they're putting it in yet?
We don't, but they were gonna, Public Works, they were gonna get with their Public Works departments, then schedule with us, but it seems like it'd be fair, in the very near future, because they need to get their plan into the state. Gosh, I'm thinking within the next couple weeks, so I think it'll be quick. As soon as I get a date that they're coming out, I can let you all know, but it'll be soon.
Yeah. Well, all I wanted to say is when it gets in, if we can get a picture of it and put it in the newsletter and put it on the
Oh, yeah.
website ASAP so people know it's here.
Yes, I figure if we do, as soon as we get it in, we can just start posting it wherever we can, and just so we get the information out and try to educate everybody that's here.
Excellent. Thank you for taking care of that. It's
Oh.
been something we've been asking about for, I think, over a year, several of us on this board. So.
Well, Weld County is very, very good to work with, so they've been very, I mean, I've had good luck with them, and they're really good at wanting to make sure that the residents get a vote as, you know, wherever's closest for them, so.
Cool, thank you.
One other quick thing. So they're doing a camera, so I would imagine it needs more than just electricity. So how else does that run? So, because it has to, I mean, you can't just put a camera and plug it in.
So
It's
we
gotta
have
go
a
somewhere.
camera right outside the chief's office, which will be right where, so it is right on that box. And so what's gonna happen is they're gonna direct that specific, they'll be able to access that camera only for that 22 time period, so then they can download it, but they have to save that recording for 25 months. That's a requirement of the state, of the statute, to hang on to that for the 25 months. But they're just going to tie into our already camera that we already have, so they don't have to do any electrical, because all of ours is already done.
Well, beyond the electrical though, is it gonna get, I don't know crap about cameras, but is this gonna get like an Ethernet cable that's gonna get plugged into it and they're gonna be able to download it directly? Or is there a storage device that we're storing it here and then they have to get it from us? Or
So-
how does the data actually get, and where does it go?
The plan is, we have the gentleman coming for our camera gentleman coming out to set them, so there'll be one desktop that they can put an IP address with and combine, put it together so they can access it, and they can only access that one camera, but they can see it from a desktop at Weld County, and then they can download just that specific camera for those 22 days.
So there might be some cost to the town just for if we need a different computer or something like that for the storage?
We may have to probably pay something to our
Oh, right.
camera
Yeah,
company to set up this address for them to access.
Okay.
And to download it properly.
Okay.
Like I can go on, they set me up so I can look at our, you know, remotely, I can look at that camera, or you want to get other several
Right.
cameras. So they'll set up an address for Weld County to be able to access
Okay.
that one camera for that observation period.
And then they will do the so they'll download it from our computer then for what they need. So we're not handing over like a hard disk or anything like that to them at the end. That's all something that they can just do through the internet and, okay. All right, that's all that I have. I was just kind of curious on how that part works.
Anything else from anyone? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the clerk and recorder for Weld County, state of Colorado, in Greeley, Colorado, and the town of Lochbuie in Lochbuie, Colorado.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Strock,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren,
Yes.
Trustee Early,
Yes.
Trustee Ott,
Yes.
Trustee Doherty.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, the motion carries. Next on the agenda is staff comments. Mr. N.
I have nothing this evening. I'll have a quick executive session here.
I'm sorry. We were going to ask about the election question, if there was enough candidates as seats available, if they still wanted to do the ballot question. Sorry.
You adopted a resolution last meeting, the meeting before, setting the 5.5% property tax statutory limit question on the ballot this year, because we were going to be having an election. I still think we might have an election, but what we didn't address in that resolution was what if we don't have more candidates and offices to be filled, and we would otherwise cancel the election? The question I have is, do you want to participate in a coordinated election just for the purpose of asking that question? Or do you want to hold off? I'm looking for direction here, depending on your answer, we'll have to come back with a resolution at the next meeting.
I am fairly confident we are going to have a contested election, so
So it's a non-issue.
non-issue. I think that's fair to say, Mr. Strock.
I think so.
So non-issue. Ms. Byrne.
So just a couple updates this evening. First, the High Plains Library District, I met with them a couple weeks ago. They would like us to have an engineer of our choosing at our cost to take a look at the existing building here, see if it's feasible for being remodeled into a new library building or whether or not it needs to be completely demolished and something built. That being said, I am working on some information gathering just to better understand the structure of the High Plains Library District and how Lac Bowie fits into it. And Steve and I have discussed, I'd like to set a work session to kind of talk over some of this stuff with y'all. I'm still information gathering, so I'm not going to set a date tonight, but look out for that soon, and I'll coordinate with you guys to set up a work session so we can talk about this a little bit more. But moving on to infrastructure, the booster station is done. The generator is moved, it's hooked up. I'm sure you've driven by and have seen that the ugly dump truck is gone with the old generator. So the only remaining thing that's happening right now is the excavation of the old lift station, but it's offline because they needed to cut the power to it for King and Fletcher. So it's up and running, the booster station's working. Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren sent a very nice email last week that he had run into one of the residents at work, and they were very happy about the water pressure in Silver Peaks, and I forwarded that on to the rest of the team, and everyone was really happy to hear that. Water treatment plant, so we did the final walkthrough last week. Moltz has their punch list that they need to finish up, and we've issued substantial completion on that. If you noticed in my contingency report, we did add one more thing on for butterfly valves, which are a safety feature, and a remaining balance, or remaining contingency on the project is just about $34,000. Don't forget, we are going to do a tour of the plant at 6 p.m. on August 28th. We scheduled that at the last meeting.
What was it again, 29th?
8th. And then wastewater treatment plant, we had our pre-construction meeting. Moltz has started out there. They started dewatering last week, and we are charging ahead on that, so everything's good to go. And then just as a quick reminder, John mentioned it before, but if you can make it, there is the ribbon cutting ceremony for the new elementary school is this Thursday at 5 p.m. And that's it. Any questions?
Any questions, Trustee Early? Trustee Stratt? Trustee App?
No.
Trustee Doherty?
Yeah, probably should have asked this a while ago, but on the booster station,
Yeah.
did we install some shut-offs or something like that on each side to be able to like get in and work on that? Mainly because we had so many issues
Yeah.
on shutting the water down on each side of it
Yeah.
that we had to do that wet tap.
We spent a lot of money. We put in some insertion valves.
That's right.
So it is we're fully able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious. Thank you.
And I don't have anything. Mr. Stamey?
So we did complete and file the audit with DOLA as required. We've also set out our 2019 budget worksheet to staff to start working on budget. And I think we'll have our first budget work session with the board. We'll try and schedule that probably in mid-September. We've still been doing a lot of work on Weld County Road 2 coordination. We had a meeting with this week also with the Silver Peaks East developer and Richmond Homes, who's interested in acquiring that property. So we have talked about the status of that project and what the next steps are, and finalizing their number of things in terms of their plan submittals and water service credit agreement, which is getting close. We're still following the Adams County and the Southwest Weld group. I have a training session tomorrow with the Dr. Cog group before anticipating submitting a grant application, which we will at some point. They have a mandatory training tomorrow, so I'll be at that. Then I'll be at a Weld County Dr. Cog thing on Thursday afternoon.
This Thursday afternoon?
This Thursday at 2 o'clock.
Can you send me that information, where it's at? And
It's at the Southwest Weld. I'll send that. It's their Southwest Weld office in Firestone.
Oh, okay. I'd like to go to some of those and
Okay,
see what's going
sure.
on.
Yep, I'll send you that info.
Did you have a date in mind for that September work session, Steve?
Well, I probably would look at either let me just look. Either the 11th or the 25th.
Can I make a vote for the 11th?
Okay.
I know it's ways out, but does anyone else have any input?
And I think the first meeting would primarily just to get an overview of what everybody sees in terms of work program and projects and, what our major expenditures or CIP projects are for the next year. We talk a little bit about maybe some initial staffing changes in some of the departments. We might talk about vehicles and equipment, but just kind of an overview of things like that. We won't have a budget prepared or specific, but just to get input to help us take it to the next step.
Does the 11th work for everyone that's here?
September, right?
Yeah.
For budget. I have a question kind of related to that I was going to ask.
Go ahead.
So when do we typically approve the budget?
It's your first meeting in December.
Okay, so then that'll be a new board. So does it make any sense to allow, if it's more of a work session, to allow anybody else that's kind of running that might have some interest to participate? I mean, I understand that this board's kind of driving that right now, but in a month from that point, 2 months from that point, it's going to be a new board, and those people may have a completely different view. So I was curious on if it would make sense to, if we have a couple of other people that are not up here right now that are actively running, that have signed up and all of that, that it might be prudent to allow them to kind of sit in and be in that work session as well. They may not get elected, but at least have some say or some input before the election, since they're going to if they end up voting on it, it'd be nice. I don't know how that really typically works. It seems kind of odd that I know it's a ton of work, so we have to start it before the election, but how does that typically work? Is it just done that way, where the board before kind of dictates it to the board behind?
Well, they don't take.
How it worked in the last election, in a lot of statutory, a lot of municipalities that have November elections, people don't see it until January, but we're statutory, so we've already addressed this issue, I think, before we looked at the issue, whether we could push off the seating until January, determined you couldn't. But it's a public meeting, even though it's a work session, it's a public meeting, the public can attend, they can listen, and if as a board, you want to ask people for input, we can do that. There's nothing stopping you.
Okay. That's all that I had. The 11th's fine. Sorry, I was just kind of curious on that, because I'm guessing, yeah.
Anyone else have questions or concerns for Steve?
No, just as public, workshops are open to the public.
Okay. Next on the agenda is mayor and trustee comments. Trustee Doherty.
Weren't we supposed to work on building code updates? At
We
some
are,
point,
and-
we sent them to go look at some stuff I don't know, 6 months ago on updating to the new IBC, I don't think we've done that.
So Safe Built has had some staffing changes right now. We have a new field building official, but I've met with Russ, who's there to talk about their 18 codes. I've met with him to talk about code adoption. He would recommend that we adopt the 2018 codes, and he's preparing the materials to bring to the board to present that and give the rationale why he thinks that the best code for us to get into right now. So he is getting that presentation together.
So, will it be similar to the one that we've had?
Do we what now?
Because didn't we do one on those and nobody showed up?
But he's going to update, he's going to give an updated presentation to the board on the 2018 codes and why his recommendation is to adopt that and what other communities are doing and things like that on 18.
If possible, I'd like to have him show kind of the differences between the 18 and the 15.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's going to explain why that, he thinks this is a
The better.
improved code over 15.
Okay, and then I guess kind of related to that though, is we have portions in our code right now that are unconservative and are incorrect because we're still basing our numbers off of an old loading for wind. That was brought up before. And so I think before we even make that switch, I mean, right now we're on 2012, if I remember right. Maybe it's 2009? Either way, the wind code changed significantly. And the wind speed that we have listed in ours is based on the old code. And if it's used, which is basically what we're telling everybody to use, it's unconservative. And it's lower than what it should be used currently for the town. Granted, the town can approve that it's lower. That's really typical to do. But I think those type of things that we need to address before we have that discussion. And that's something that's been out there for quite a while.
That update maybe in the 2018 version of the IBC.
So we in our code and how we list things. So if I go to Google and say, hey, what's the wind speed in Loch Louis? We list it as a lower wind speed than it is by the code that we have currently adopted. So the code that we have currently adopted has a higher wind speed for the town of Loch Louis than what we tell people that they need to design for. I think I said that backwards. So the code that we have right now that we've adopted has a higher wind speed that we should be using than what the town tells people they should be using.
Let me check that.
Okay.
It's just that there's misinformation out there, but that the code itself and what the requirements are in the code are appropriate, we're just telling them.
Well, true, but if somebody goes and looks up, hey, I'm doing a building in the town of Loch Louis, they'll go and say, okay, does the town of Loch Louis have any differences? What wind speed does the town of Loch Louis say that they need to be? Oh, the town of Loch Louis says it's 100 miles an hour. It should be 120 by code, but they're saying it's 100. And so since the town says it's 100, that's what I can use. Does that make sense? So we're telling,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying? Because a lot of times we'll go and try to find information because towns will adopt higher wind speeds and other things and
But our
dictate
inspectors
that.
should be inspecting for what our code says. So if our code says that they are supposed to develop for 120 wind speed, even if somebody had a statement on there somewhere that's at 100, hopefully Safebuilt is still looking at the 120.
I guess the way that I'm reading it though is it makes it sound like the town of Loch Louis kind of overridden that, which the town of Loch Louis can do, and has reduced the wind speed.
We'll have to look at that, because that would have had the amendment to the code that you adopted as ordinance. In other words, if it's the 2012, and I can't remember, then what we do is we adopt that wholesale with certain amendments and
Right.
modifications. And so depending on what that amendment or
I see what you're
modification,
saying.
that governs. So we have to look at the ordinance,
I see what you're saying.
what those amendments are.
Okay.
That is the law.
No, that
And
makes sense.
That's what Safebuilt should be doing.
Okay, that's fair. And that's all that I have.
Trustee App?
A couple things. Several months ago, a gentleman came to us concerning the property east on Weld County 2 where the big flag is, about a RV park and some other stuff he wanted to put there. And we kind of talked to him, but really didn't do anything. Well, I was on a trip this afternoon and talked to his mother and found out that he is in negotiations with Brighton to annex it. I do not want Brighton on the north side of 2. I don't want Brighton on to the east of us. If he goes in there now that Mr. Spillane is left, what's to prevent Mr. Spillane from putting his $1,800 home development in? So I just want the board, if it's okay with the board, I'm going to talk to this, and his name is Daniel, if I remember correctly, about what's it going to take for him to throw Brighton across the street into the ditch and come on board with us. Because he's already talking about building his own sewer treatment plant out there, and I think that's in the plans. So at this point, we don't have to worry about running water, but personally, I don't want Brighton on the north side of 2 in Weld County. I don't know what everybody else's feelings is, but I want to make sure it's okay with the board if I talk to the gentleman and steer him towards Steve and the rest of the staff to, get us back on track to get that annexation, because I don't want it to go to Brighton, because that's the first stop of us getting surrounded. So is there any discussion on that?
I don't have any problem with you directing him to staff.
Okay,
Does any?
I'm in favor of it.
okay. When he calls, I will get a hold of Steve and coordinate getting him with everybody, because I'd rather have him on board with us. And I think everybody agrees with that too.
So, point of information.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, back when I was actually on the planning commission first, I went to a class and they talked about annexations for like 2 weeks, whatever. And I thought there were a lot of limitations on what the town could really do in like approaching people to annex into town. Because I guess I thought that what they were saying is like, you can't just go to a developer or to somebody out of ways and say, hey, do you want to annex into town? They have to come to you.
He did come to us to begin with.
Well, that's to begin, not to annex though. So is there, I
Annexation
guess,
is a legislative determination. It's not a quasi-judicial matter, it's a legislative matter. You can go out and, I mean, there are certain requirements for annexation, like you have to have contiguity with, figure out a way to get contiguity to town, to current town property.
right.
That kind of thing, but there's nothing to stop us from approaching people about annexing.
So there's nothing, so we can go up the road and see if somebody else wants to annex. All that's kind of open?
Sure.
Okay.
You only want to annex property that there's a benefit to you in doing so, right?
For sure.
So if sometimes it's protection, that's okay. Sometimes it's economic, that's okay. But, and sometimes developers come to you for annexation and it's not economic.
Okay.
So that's something to consider when making your legislative determination as to whether you want to annex.
Okay. Makes sense.
Anything else?
Yeah, now CML, I'm on the CML as a representative for the town of Wapouche. They have 3 concerns on upcoming ballot issues. Executive 108 is just compensation for any reduction in value caused by any government law or regulation deemed to reduce the market value of private property, which leaves a wide open expanse. I mean, you could pass a law limiting the number of porta potties somewhere and somebody could sue you and say it limits the value of my property. So, if anybody brings that to your attention, it's not something we're trying to make it so we're protecting ourselves. It's just common sense. It's too open of initiative. The second one they're interested in is Initiative 178, which it looks like it's something that would really increase the town's ability to regulate the oil and gas industry, but it wouldn't. It's a bait and switch deal passed by the oil companies, and it puts severe limitations on COGG towns and everybody else. But the ordinance is written so that it looks like it's a benefit, but it's not. It's a bait and switch deal.
Is it the one that is stretching it out to 2,500 feet?
No, that's
residential?
Initiative 97.
That's 97?
97
Okay.
is going to make buffer zones of 2,500 feet created statutory, which will eliminate new oil and gas development on 95% of the surface land in the state's top 5 oil and gas producing counties, and impose a de facto ban on the industry statewide. So these are 3 issues we need to be concerned on. And if anybody brings it to our attention, educate them on, they're not in our best interest.
Our office will be putting together big little papers on these,
Okay.
if they get signatures and become real.
What were the numbers again, Dave?
I think 108 is the biggest.
108 is the biggest concern, 178 and 97.
108's the
The,
faux eminent
yeah,
domain thing.
just compensation for any reduction in value caused by any government law or regulation deemed to reduce the market value of private property. Well, what is deemed to reduce the market value of
Everything.
private property?
Right, you do commercial development potentially in somebody's backyard, they can argue that you didn't diminish their property value. So it's very wide open, it's very problematic.
So all 3 of these issues are of major concern to cities and municipalities. So if anybody asks you about them, please educate them on what they really do.
Anything else?
No, that's it.
Trustee Stratt?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with this. So I'm gonna pass these out. If you guys would just take one. This is a sample building permit. It shows all the fees that we have associated when we have a house built here. It shows that it's about $22,000 in fees. This next page, if you look at it right underneath here, are all the fees that Aurora, Brighton, Broomfield, Castle Rock, other cities charge. You'll see that the majority of them are twice as much as Lac Boone. So it costs you $45,000 to pay all the fees over here in Brighton or Commerce City or somewhere else. So my point being is that a $500 or $600 or a $700 fire impact fee is not going to put us out of business with drawing people to Lac Boone. I mean, our fees are simply half as much as everybody else. And with that being said, maybe we should review all our fees and see if they should be brought up to date. So I'd like to bring back some discussion about the fire impact fees again and kind of get moving on it. I think this is information that we've been given in past meetings, and so now you guys have it again so you can look at it. Steve's report says Lake Henry is in progress or process. We're going to talk about that someday, or?
We will.
Okay.
It's just, I wanted to get an interview team together to interview a couple of companies, and we've had some just schedules to get together.
And you mentioned you've made, trying to set up a time for the Boomer Bond, Dr. Cog. That was the other thing. This retention pond in front of the building here, even after all the rains, is still kind of, the ground is saturated, of course, with water. But if they put maybe a daylight drain on the north side of it, they could dry it up. And when we do get an excess amount of water, then the drain system would actually compensate for that. But it's something that made me think about, because it's always wet out there. The other thing was behind Berkshire on the state land to the east of the Burlington Ditch, there are now twice as many prairie dogs as there was 2 or 3 weeks ago. The next thing is out here on 4. I thought they did a crummy job crack sealing a couple years ago, so it seems like they did a pretty good job because a lot of them have withstood a year or two. I think we should check our warranty on it, and any money we can spend on taking care of 4 is well worth it right now, especially for just crack sealing it or chip sealing it like they've done in Old Town. 2 other things. This is going to sound silly, but you know, oil will not bring retail to this town. Oil takes housetops away. It's plain and simple. And the other thing I want to say, we talked about changing the codes. I think we kind of got waylaid a little bit about the fire sprinklers that have been in the code book since 2008. But I just kind of wanted to say, and this probably is not a good thing to say, but engineering minimums are problematic. And I know people use those as guidelines, but if you're paying somebody to test the concrete out here on 2, and it's supposed to be, say, a 3,000 pound mix, or 3,000 pound mix, why not pour a 4,500 pound mix up there and not even worry about how it's going to test? You know, I've never understood why minimums are supposed to be acceptable. So that's all.
Trustee Early?
I want to congratulate Sam on her second article in the CML magazine on Mayor Mahoney. Waste management trucks. When we did the contract with them, they pushed for us to have the automatic arms that loaded the trash cans. Well, the last 2 times that they have come to my house, the guy's getting out and physically putting the trash into the back of a truck. So I'm just wondering what happened to the deal and the trucks we were supposed to have that were supposed to be more economical and environmental.
We are using arms at my place.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using arms at my place. And
Well,
it
the
just
last
goes-
2 times on our streets, they've been manually doing them. I just wondered why, because I thought that was kind of odd. United Power did in their last, well, in the July magazine, fairs and festivals, and we weren't listed. And it would have been nice if we were in there, because they're into September. So ours is always the third Saturday in September. It'd be nice if we could got listed too, because it would have maybe got more people here. I just thought I'd bring that up. Santiago's cut their weeds. It looks much better down there, so thank you for that. And update on Verizon.
Supposed to be done in September.
Yep.
September.
September is
Mid-September.
what they say now. 2019 or 2020, I don't know.
Just say
Sometime in your lifetime.
Yeah.
And do we have any update on the property between the little gas station and the senior center? Is someone still going in there? No?
No updates.
Okay. That's all I had.
Okay. I have a million things. I'm going to try and skip some of them. First, I did want to follow up on Trustee Strzok's comment about the fire impact fees. I thought we were kind of waiting on the fire department to take the next step in that. Have we heard anything from them?
I received a communication from the chief, wanted to set up a meeting with staff, so I'll get that done.
So it's still in progress then?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to skip some of my stuff. Oh, a couple of citizen concerns I saw. Apparently there's a Hudson police officer who lives in Bella Vista. I think I knew that, but a bunch of citizens had posted on Nextdoor today that he was like shining lights in cars and checking stuff out. And they were very concerned that the Hudson police officer was doing patrols and investigating there, and because none of them realized that it was sort of legitimate, I guess. So you might want to have our police department touch base with him.
Yeah, because he had somebody stopped on 37 the other day.
Yeah, apparently he's doing stuff in town, and there's people very concerned about it. No one's afraid because they all sort of realize that he's a legitimate cop, but they're very concerned that he's patrolling in Lac Bowie. So, there's that. The crack seal on Lone Wolf Circle looks great, but as I was walking around Berkshire, I noticed that they didn't repair anywhere else. The only thing they did warranty work on was Lone Wolf Circle, and I think it's because Larry and I see it, and we talked about it, and they didn't check or repair anything else in Berkshire. So we need to get them back out there and doing what they need to do under their warranty. Okay, I'm gonna hop down my list real quick here. Ballot drop-off done, talked about that. Do we have any update on when we're gonna get the economic development report?
We had to reschedule her. She said now she had to leave town for a family event and was looking at a September date.
Okay. Okay. Lots of the things I have on here are budget ideas, but I'll save them for our work session now. The website calendar, if we can make sure we're getting our planning sessions and potentially maybe some of the Dr. Cog meetings Larry and I are going to on there, that would be great. I can send you some of those dates. Verizon update. Oh, just an update on the AdCog meeting. Larry and I did go to the last one 2 weeks ago. We did not get selected to compete for the regional share from Adams County, but we are still in the mix for potentially getting sub-regional money from Adams County for our I-76 interchange project. Still seems pretty promising on the sub-regional. I was sort of disappointed in how the regional discussion went down. It was kind of a foregone conclusion that we weren't going to be the recipient, and that made me a little upset, but it is what it is. We are still going to try and go for the Weld County regional share, I think, and hopefully we'll get some traction there. School groundbreaking, Sam already talked about. Did we ever get final resolution on those PIFs that are in the escrow for the sewer fund? No?
We've been trying to get Brighton's attention. The WSA, 2009 WSA requires for disbursements out of the escrow fund that we get signature from South Beebe Draw, Town of Lock Bowie, and the City of Brighton. And
Brighton's not playing nice again? Sweet. That actually brings up another thing I wanted to mention. Brayton's Ward 1, which is the one across the street from us, has their annual community meeting on August 30th. I can't remember what time it's at. I'm planning to go just to hear what they're talking about and maybe throw out a comment about County Road 2 if there's an opportunity for that. Anyone else who's interested in joining with me is more than welcome. Okay. Oh, I saw on the website there's a library strategy session on September 10th. Are you planning to attend that? Yeah. Okay, I probably will too. Upcoming election. I know in the past we've done public forums, or I don't know if the town's hosted them, but we've gotten someone to host a public forum for candidates, and since it does sound like there's going to be some contested elections, if we could reach out to, I think the League of Women Voters did the last one. They're not usually very well attended, but, you know, for the 10 people that do show up, I think it's important, and I think we should do it. I think that was, oh, the last thing I wanted to talk about, my family and I attended a camp out event at Brayton's Rec Center this past weekend. It was an amazing thing. I was wondering if someone on our staff can reach out to their staff and see if we can coordinate with them on that next year and maybe do some kind of sponsorship with it or host a booth or host some activity there. It was an awesome event, and if we can somehow make it so that our residents are more informed of it and have more opportunity to go, that would be awesome. And I can get you, I got the contact event for the person who ran it, so I'll get that to you. And that's all I had, so with that, yep, go ahead.
How about a sewer board meeting?
That's what we're trying to get set up.
Okay, sometime soon.
Yep, we've sent dates and haven't had response at this point yet.
From either?
From our fellow board members.
But isn't the board, oh no, they're non-voting, aren't they?
Brighton's just being so friendly recently. So awesome. Okay, with that, next item on our agenda is an executive session pursuant to Colorado Revised Statute Section 24-6-402, Parens 4, Parens B, with Town Council for legal advice on the Sand Hills Metro District.
And I don't think it take very long, and maybe we can stay put and just go live streaming, is that possible?
Yeah, if you guys can shut it down. At this time, we will shut down the.
Can I stop the live stream?
Yep,
We can't.
that's fine.
The only issue
Yep.
after we
This-
come back on will be adjourning.
For anyone that's watching in the public, we are going to close it down now for our executive session, and this will be the end of our public meeting. Thank you.
Wait a few minutes.
Oh, yeah. Do we have a motion?
So moved. So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Jordan.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Lofgren.
Yes.
Trustee Ott.
Aye.
Trustee Struck.
Yes.
Trustee Early.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. I got to put my language, 1 second.